So in the previous session, we discussed regarding modules, and this discussion, we had discussed top level design approach and that is top down design approach and bottom up design approach, and we had seen an example of 4-bit ripple adder, ripple counter, and we had also seen other different kinds of counters, and that one discussion was related to a 4-bit ripple counter. So in the previous session, we discussed regarding modules. What is meant by module? So which is the basic building block of Verilog. So these all discussions we had done in previous case, and what all module consists of, how you can define a module in Verilog. So this was the discussion what we had previously. So just a recap of that. So module is basically a basic building block which is used in Verilog. So using this, we build the entire say a digital circuit design what is required. So it is basically a collection of lower level design blocks. So using these lower level design blocks, I'll be able to establish a system which will be combination of all these design blocks. So now the elements are basically grouped together into modules, and later these modules will be providing some functionality. Say for example, if I want an adder, so the module can implement the functionality of an adder by making use of elements such as AND gate, OR gate, NAND gate, XOR gate, or you can make use of behavioral level and implement it. So these all things come into existence when we speak of modules. Then module basically provides the functionality which is represented at the higher level of interface, higher level block. Uh, so whenever we are using the module, right, because we have 4 levels of representation, that is, we have discussed switch level or the circuit level. Then we had the data flow level. Then we had the gate level, and another one we had the behavioral level. So whenever we are speaking of behavioral level, what happens is the programming in Verilog turns out to be somewhat similar to the C programming. The syntax, or not the syntax, it is somewhat similar to the C programming. So whenever we are writing a code in a language such as C programming, it is easier to write the code as compared to writing the code in the, say for example, in assembly level or the low level languages. So it becomes difficult. At the same time, what you are doing is, suppose you are writing some function, you want to add, you want to add two parameters. You write A and B in C programming. Similarly, we have gate level implementation wherein we'll be passing the parameters, and is a construct which is available in Verilog. So using this construct, I am implementing. I'll be passing the parameters, and what output is expected, I'll be storing it in some of the value. I'll be storing it in one location. So that gives me the implementation. Now what you're doing is you're just using this directly. How the implementation of this AND gate is, how the switches are used, what kind of switches are used. So you are least bothered of that. That is what this statement implies. That is implementation, the internal implementation details are hidden. How the AND gate is implemented, that details you can hide. So that is what we had discussed. And apart from this, what happens is designers are permitted to modify the module without affecting the overall design. So here what it implies is, suppose you have using a AND gate in order to build the adder. Now instead of using a NAND gate, I want to build a adder using a NAND gate. So you can make the modification in over here. You can make the modification and build the adder implementation using the NAND gate. So you are not changing the rest of the design. You are just changing some internals, and you're trying to obtain the overall functionality. That is what it implies. So here an example of a flip-flop. The ripple carry counter. So this is the top level. This ripple counter can be implemented using flip-flops. Since we are using 4 flip-flops, this turns out to be a 4-bit ripple carry counter. So each T flip-flop is acting as a module. So in later slides, right, we'll come to know what actually is happening, what all things come over there. So I have a T flip-flop. So each T flip-flop will be a module here. Now in turn, T flip-flop can be built using a D flip-flop and an inverter. So here D flip-flop also will be a module and the inverter will also be a module. It depends here. Sometimes I can use the expression directly as not, or else I go for gate level, switch level implementation and obtain it. So since keyword not is present over there, I can make use of it directly. That is gate level implementation. So this is also a module what I can utilize. So this is also a module. So here if I just have to realize, right, the functionality of this one is to provide the T flip-flop result. The function of this one is to provide the T flip-flop result. How you're doing it, it is left up to you. So in this case, how we are doing is we are using D flip-flop and the inverter in order to implement the functionality of the T flip-flop. So how D flip-flop is implemented, whether you want to design it using the transistors or whether you want to design it using the gates, so it is left up to you. So if you're designing it with the transistors, you should get the D flip-flop implementation. And if you're designing it using the gates, again the same flip-flop has to be implemented. That is, the result should be same. That is what the statement specifies. You can modify the module internals. The flip-flop internals say they are developed with transistors, but in the end, it should provide me the same implementation of D flip-flop. If I make use of gates, I am changing the internal from transistors to gate, and I am developing this. So this is what it intends. Now we had discussed this also. That is, if you want to write a module, start writing a module, we make use of the keyword module, which basically tells that it is the start of a given module. Then if I want to terminate a module, I make use of end module keyword. So keyword, I specified that these are specific meaning. I cannot use it for any other purposes. Then each module should have what? It should have a name. It should have a name which will be used as an identifier. So identifier, you should choose carefully with some rules specified. You can use underscore, dollar, and alphabets, I guess. So these are the three things what we can use. So the first, this thing can be a underscore or a alphabet. It cannot be a dollar or any other symbol, first letter of the identifier. Rest all can be combination. So this all we had discussed. Then it should have a module terminal list, which basically specifies the input port, output port, or sometimes termed as terminals. So an example was shown here, just a general example. So here we can see that the module has started with the keyword module and it has terminated with the end module. So as compared with C programming, it is like opening brace and the opening parenthesis and the closing parenthesis. Then we should give a identifier which will be acting as the module name and which will be used later for instances, for creating instances. Next, we have the module terminal list, which will be either input port, output port, or in-out port. So these all things. And then these internals will be the logical implementation, what you, whether you want to implement using it at a gate level. So you write and the parameters, XOR and the parameters. Or if you want to implement it in the data flow format, then you have sum is equal to A and B. Then carry is equal to this is A XOR B, and carry is equal to A and B. Sum is A XOR B and carry is A and B. So if you want data flow representation, this is how you go ahead. So these are different specifications. So what we can use in module internals. It can be at any level. It can be at circuit level, it can be at gate level, it can be at the data flow level, it can be at the highest level, that is the behavioral level of abstraction. Generally, circuit level or switch level is rarely used. The other threes are used regularly. So next in continuation, let us see another one example here. So here you can just see the comparison we have provided. So module is a keyword. So this gives us the information that the module has started. Then after that, what is the name of the module? Module name in this case is T underscore FF. That is the T flip flop. This is the T flip flop module. And what are the terminal list required in this case? It is Q, clock, and reset. So these are the terminal lists which are required, which are input, which are output, which are in out. So those all can be defined. And next, what is the functionality? So you should remember that termination is also present here, that semicolon. So next is the functionality, that is the module internals. Module internals gives the implementation of, here it gives the implementation of T flip-flop. And once that T flip-flop is implemented, if module is over, I have to terminate it with the keyword end module. So this is how a module is say defined. I can specify it to be as defined. The module is defined in this form. So next, before going ahead, we should know that what is meant by synthesis, because this term again and again will be using it. Synthesis implies you get the RTL and you convert it into the gate level net list. Now, in previous sessions, we had discussed what is meant by RTL. RTL deals or gives the information of how the data transfer happens between the registers. How the data transfer happens between the registers. RTL is register transfer logic. Okay, register transfer level. RTL is register transfer level. So how the data transfer happens between the registers. So it gives us that information, and what is the design process which will be acting on the data. So it gives us that information. And gate level netlist is what? It gives us the overall specification of the physical components. Netlist gives us the overall specification of the physical components, and it also gives me how those components are interconnected. Say for example, I have an AND gate and the XOR gate. How these, so it will give the specification of these gates and how the interconnection is happening, whether AND gate output is going to XOR and how XOR is connected to AND. So all these things will be present in the gate level netlist. Apart from that, where it is placed, how it is placed, so those all information will be present here. So the tool which does this thing, right, that's it takes RTL and generates the gate level netlist, we call it as synthesis tool. So we call it as synthesis tool. And the process of converting RTL to gate level netlist is called synthesis. So now we have a few more things to discuss as to Verilog is both, that is, it is behavioral also and it is structural also. So what is actually meant by behavioral? So why we call it as behavioral level? Because it supports a few of the concepts. That's why we classify it to be a behavioral language. So we classify a language to be behavioral if it supports algorithmic level of abstraction to be present. This is the highest level of abstraction which is present. Then apart from this, we make use of behavioral language to describe the behavior of the hardware or the function of the digital circuits. So we define this in a very abstract way, that is in say somewhat in a language which is easy to go through or easy to code around. So we make use of behavioral aspect in order to define the behavior of the hardware, how the hardware is behaving, or how what is the functionality of the digital circuit. So this is permitted in Verilog. That is what it specifies here. Then how do I implement it? The functionality, what is intended, it is written in somewhat algorithmic kind of code. So we try to implement these in algorithmic kind of code. So these all things again later we'll be checking when we come into the coding aspect, right? So that time we'll just check out these things. So functionality can be written in algorithmic form. We use constructs which are almost similar to C language. For example, we make use of for this thing. We write for. So I can make use of this looping construct even in similar kind of looping construct in Verilog. So I can use this. I can define, say, int, then other stuffs. So there are again different concepts which come over here. So behavioral language, it is the highest level of abstraction which is represented. It is algorithmic level of abstraction. It is basically Verilog. That is, Verilog is basically used to describe the behavior of the hardware and the functions of the digital circuits. The functionality is defined in an algorithmic way, and the constructs what we use in Verilog are similar to that, like that in C language. Now, what is one thing we have to note down is behavioral code. When we are writing behavioral level of abstraction, right? When we write the design in behavioral form, generally it is not synthesizable. Generally, we cannot synthesize it. So there are some reasons why we cannot synthesize it. Just few examples to name is the for loops, the delays. These all we cannot synthesize. We cannot synthesize. Now, when we are defining a for loop in hardware, how it goes around. So that is a different way. So I cannot synthesize this actually in a software. So this is a software construct. For loop is a software construct. Delay is a software construct. So I am not looking. So here I specified that when we are writing behavioral level of code, we are not bothering about the implementation, how it is done, hardware implementation. So for loop, I don't have any hardware implementations over there, but how the looping takes around in that case. So that is a different aspect. So behavioral code is generally, you cannot synthesize the code which is behavioral, but the structural you can synthesize it. So whenever you are coding, right, you should keep in mind what part has to be synthesized or what part hasn't need not to be synthesized. So those all things also come into consideration. Now Verilog is also a structural language because using Verilog I can have gate level of abstractions presented for the description, design description. Next, I can use the digital design functions. I can define this digital design functions using the gates such as the NOT gate, AND gate, and other stuff. I can also make use of components such as MUX, DMUX, and others. So in order to define some design specifications, right? If I want the design digital design, I can make use of these all components. So when I am making use of such components, it is actually gate level of implementation. So whenever I am using the gate level of abstraction, right, we term that it is in structural form. It is in structural form. That's why we sometimes term gate level of abstraction also as structural level of abstraction. Sometimes the term is used over there. Now, when we are doing it in this form, right? Suppose I want to implement the functionality of a adder. I can build the adder using the AND gate, NAND gate, or XOR gate, whatever we had discussed. Now it is when we have these things, right? It is nothing but how in on the breadboard, how we or on a PCB, how we are placing the hardwares and interconnecting them. It is somewhat similar to that. So in structural language, when I am writing code in structural language, it is somewhat similar to rigging up the circuit, because what you do is you specify which gate output has to be connected where. So you specify some elements to be wire. So what is the input to this? What will be the output to this? Where it has to be connected. So if I have a AND gate output is given to some other gate. Say for example, it is given to XOR gate. So I should specify this connection. So if there is an inverter and inverter output, where it should go? Say if it should go to the AND gate. So there is an input over here. So it is like you are writing the code, but at the same time, what you are doing is you are telling that where which connection is present. It is like you are doing the design itself on the breadboard. So actual hardware connection you are implementing. It looks somewhat in that form. A structural code can be synthesizable because I'll be getting the RTL description as an input to this. From this, I'll be getting the gate level netlist. So in this case, we make use of primitives, already existing primitives such as and, or, then operators also can be used. That is the plus minus operators. So these are all primitives which are present, which fall under structural coding or gate level implementation. So these are that is Verilog supports both. It supports behavioral type of writing also, that is a code writing, or structural type of writing. So both it is supporting. But one thing to remember is behavioral generally it is not synthesizable, whereas structural code is synthesizable. So what does synthesis imply? This. So if I give an input to RTL input to this, I'll be able to get the gate level netlist. But in this case, I'll not be able to get the gate level netlist because there are some constructs which cannot be synthesized. For example, for loop and the delays, some timing constraints. So these all it becomes difficult over there. Now, whenever we are speaking of modules, right, the internals of the modules can be defined at the four levels of abstraction. So this all we had discussed. So it is a recap of that itself. The first level is the behavioral or the algorithmic level of abstraction. So this is the highest level of abstraction. This is the highest level of abstraction. Then here modules can be implemented in terms of desired design algorithm. So that is algorithmic approach will be used to implement the desired functionality or the desired digital circuit design. So we can implement the module using the algorithmic representation. Then apart from this, what happens is whenever you are writing code in behavioral level of abstraction, or if you're writing it in algorithmic level of abstraction, you give no concern, or you are not concerned about how the hardware implementation is actually done at the back end. Suppose I want to use the AND implementation, you are least bothered of how that implementation has been done. So I want A and B. So this entire thing should perform ANDing of these two. But how the implementation of AND is done, you are not bothered about that, or you are less concerned. You just take care of the software aspect, that whether the functionality intended is obtained or not. Then designing at this level is very similar to the C programming, but the constructs are different. Constructs will be different. Next, we have the data flow. So here, if I just want to specify, data flow is a level of abstraction which is lesser than behavioral, but it is higher than that of the below one, that is the gate level. That is a gate level or the structural level. So lower level of abstraction as compared to the behavioral level of abstraction, and it is higher level of abstraction which when it is compared to the gate level of abstraction. So in this one, the module will be basically designed by specifying the data flow. Now in this case, what happens is the designer has to be aware of how the data transfer actually happens between the registers. The designer has to be aware of this thing, and what are the data, how the data is processed in the design. So these are the two things what uh, what the designer has to keep in mind. So that is, these are the two levels of abstraction. The next two levels is the gate level. So gate level is sometimes specified as structural level. This again, if I compare it to the previous and its next version, gate level is a higher level of abstraction as compared to the switch level of abstraction, and it is a lower level of abstraction as compared to that of the data flow level of abstraction. So that is what is specified, lower level than the data flow abstraction, and it is a higher level of abstraction as compared to the switch or the circuit level of abstraction. Sometimes we term this as structural level of abstraction also. Then in this case, what we do is, the name itself tells gate level. So when we want to implement the module, right, we make use of the logic gates. We make use of the logic gates. Apart from that, we can make use of the components as I specified, mux, demux, and other stuffs. So in this case, what happens is, if you're designing the digital circuit, right, it will be somewhat similar to describing the design in terms of the gate level logic diagram. So we'll be specifying it in that form. Now, lastly, which comes is the switch level, or sometimes it is called as circuit level of abstraction. This is the lowest level of abstraction. Generally, this won't be preferred by many designers. Generally, the circuit designers look after this, and the logic designers who are there, they'll be utilizing the output which is given by the circuit level designers. So this also we had discussed in one of the sessions. So switch level, lowest level of abstraction. In this, the module is designed or implemented using the switches, storage nodes, and the interconnections between them. The switches can be PMOS, NMOS, or combination of those in order to implement the next level of abstractions which is required. So these module is implemented using these components, that is the switches and the storage nodes and the interconnections between them. So here another thing to remember, another thing to look after is we can have a combination of all four levels in a module. We can have combination of all four levels in a Verilog design. Now here RTL generally uses the combination of both behavioral and data flow constructs. And this RTL will be given to the logic synthesis tool, which will be giving me the gate level net list. So, but care has to be taken as to how the implementation goes around with the behavioral. Okay, because it is not synthesizable, there should be some conversions happening, and then only we'll be able to move ahead. So if a design contains four modules, all four modules can be written in at different levels of abstraction. All four modules can be represented in different levels of abstraction. Because why this is supported is what happens is whenever we are speaking of the levels of abstractions, it is just the code what you are writing in order to implement the functionality. But at the end, say if I am having a behavioral level of abstraction, I should be able to get a gate level of representation. I should be able to get a gate level of abstraction. If I am writing data flow, again from data flow, I should be permitted to obtain the gate level abstraction representation. So once I get this gate level representation, I can go for the below one and obtain the synthesis for that, and then finally obtain the mask and go further for the implementation of the IC. So here, most of the modules, since all modules are permitted in different level of abstractions are permitted in the design. Why? Because all the modules in the end will be replaced with the gate level implementation. That is with the help of the tools which are present. Generally, if you just observe, right, what happens is the higher level of abstractions are more flexible. Flexible in terms of, say, I would specify in terms of coding and other aspects. So coding becomes simpler in the higher level of abstraction, say the behavioral level. As we go further, right, it becomes little bit difficult. For example, if I have a C program and if I have a assembly level language, if I have an assembly level language, so which makes use of mnemonics. Suppose if in C programming, you might write it as A is equal to B. That is, B value is getting stored in A. But in assembly language, right, how do we write it? We write it as move, say I store some information. First, I store it in the accumulator. So this is how generally it goes around. So this variables information is stored in accumulator. Next, what I do is I store this information in one of the registers. I store this information in one of the registers. So once this is done, then I can write it as move A comma R1, something in this form. So this is just a sample, this thing I'm showing. So this is how actually this assignment would be operating at assembly level language. So here what is happening, it is not a just simple this thing, but here if I ask you to code it using C programming, and if I ask you to code it in assembly language programming, so the student would or the developer would go with C level of implementation. That is this kind of implementation. So therefore it becomes more flexible in this case. But when I go for assembly level language, what would happen is these all things come into existence, and coding, if in coding, this becomes a little bit more difficult because I should remember each and every stuff, and I should go and look out for the code. If anything goes wrong, again I have to go and check where that mistake has happened. So this becomes more inflexible. It is less flexible for the developers. And it is technology independent. Technology independent in the sense, say you have different IC design technologies which are present. So here, when you're writing something in this form, you're not bothering about what technology is used to perform these operations. Technology in the sense, in terms of hardware, I'm speaking. In terms of hardware. Suppose I write A plus B. This adder, when it is implemented, it is implemented using the AND gate and the XOR gate. It is implemented using the AND gate and XOR gate. How these gates are designed, how these gates, on what technology they are designed it. You're not bothering about this. Whether you are using a nanometer, whether you are using a micrometer to build these gates, you are not bothering about that. So higher level of abstraction is more flexible and it is technology independent. But the lower level of as we move lower, right, when we come to say gate level or switch level, the abstractions, it becomes a little bit inflexible and it is more technology dependent. So here you are taking care that if you're designing in nanometer, so the specifications have to be in this form. If you're designing in micrometer, the specifications have to be in this particular form. So you have to take care when you go for lower levels of abstractions. So these are just a few things to name up. Now let us come to the next point, that is instances. So before going to this part, right, if you know C programming or object-oriented programming, you might have heard something called as class. You might have heard something called as class. Say we define it as ABC. You have the member functions over here, and suppose you come to one main this thing, and in this say in the main function, what I do is I so this is a kind of data structure. This is a kind of data structure, which is a user-defined data structure. So this we call it as a class in C++. Now, if I want to create or if I want to create an object of this, what I do is I write it as ABC and I give some name to that. So this is an object which is related to class ABC. This is an object which is related to class ABC. Now this, what we are writing here, we call it as instantiation. We call it as instantiation. That is, we are creating instances of class ABC. We are creating instances of class ABC. So somewhat a similar thing comes over here. No need to bother about C++. It is just an analogy what I have taken. So module basically provides us a template. So as I defined for this one, right, I had written as class ABC. I'll be having some member functions over here. Then I had written main. So in this, I had taken ABC OBJ. So this class is acting as a template over here. So that is what it specifies. Somewhat similar to this. So module basically provides a template. So what that template's purpose is, that is we have to check out. So templates can be used to create the actual objects. So what we'll see, what are the objects in our cases? What are the objects? So here in C++ also, you can just say if I have to define a object of this class, I just take the name of this class and give the variable name. So this one is the object of type ABC. So here, once I define a module, right, I'll be getting a template, and using that template, I'll be creating the objects, actual objects with that. So in uh, whenever we invoke a module, right, whenever we invoke a module, it creates a unique object. It creates a unique object. So this is like invoking the class ABC. I'm invoking this class. When I'm invoking, a new object is created. That is what he specifies here. Whenever we invoke a module, a new unique object will be created from the template which is provided from the module. So each object will be having its own name, parameters, and I/O interfaces. So each object can have this thing. So this will check out later. How in the next forthcoming parts, right? We'll start off with the coding. So there will be checking all these things. So in whenever we invoke a module, right, we'll be creating a object which will be based on the template. And each object should have its name, parameters, and its own interfaces. Now, what is instantiation? The process of creating the objects from the templates what you have built is termed as instantiation. Instantiation is the process of creating the objects from the module templates. The objects which are created are called as instances. The objects which we create, right, those are called as instances of that module. So here we can just see a module instantiation example. So in this case, what we are doing is we are not going into depth here. We are just looking out what all things are specified here. So what he is doing is he is defining a top level module for a ripple counter. And in this case, it is a 4-bit ripple carry counter what we are looking out for. And here you can see that module, ripple carry counter, and the terminal list, and this is ended here. So this is the start of the ripple carry counter, and this is the end of the ripple carry counter. In between, some parameters are specified. You have an output which is related to Q, that is signals and vectors which are present over there. Clock and reset are the IO pins or the IO ports. Now here you can see that 4 instances of T flip-flop are being created. Now how this is created, that we'll check out in again in some time. So here you can see that we are making use of T underscore FF. So I should know that this is a module. This is the name of a module, and TFF0 will be an instance of this one, and this will be the object. We'll call it as an object. So TFF naught is the instance which is created for the T flip flop, and this is the object. And what are the details? It will be having input, output, then the IO interfaces. So all these things. So we'll check out how this is actually coming. So here you can see that there are 4 instances of the T flip flop which are being created. The 4 instances are TFF0, TFF1, TFF2, and TFF3. So these are the 4 instances, or these are the 4 objects which are created from the template of T flip flop. So this is how I am instantiating a module. Now here, if you just come around, we have another module which is T underscore FF, that is related to this part. So these also have to be defined. Without defining, if I try to use it, right, then it will throw an error. So this is how it is defined. That is module. T flip flop is the name of the module, and these are the terminal lists. So here again, we can just check out. Output is given as Q over here, then input is reset, then we have something specified as wire. So later we'll check out what this term defines. Now under this, if you just check what has happened is he has created, he has used the template of D flip-flop. That is, D flip-flop is a module. It is a module, and DFF0 is an instance of this D flip-flop. Is an instance of this D flip-flop. DFF0 is an instant of this D flip-flop. Therefore, we also can call it as it is the object. And what are the parameters for this one? So these are the parameters. And lastly, we have a not used. Not is a keyword which is a primitive present in the Verilog, and it is a construct which we can use to build the modules. And N1 is the name given to that. So N1 is the instance created for not. And there are two parameters which you are passing to this. So here again, you just check T flip-flop module has started with the keyword module and it has terminated with the end module. So this along with this part is one module. So this is the template for T flip-flop. This is the template for T flip-flop. This is what we specify. And using this template, what we are doing is we are creating instances of the T flip-flop. I can have any number of instances of this T flip-flop. Now here, if you just see what you have, Q, clock, and reset. So this is the terminal list. That is what is provided here. These are the three parameters what you are providing. Okay. Now here, if you just see, this is the D flip-flop. So I should have another module. I should have a module which will be named as D underscore FF, and it should have some parameters, 4 parameters in this case. And I should have the end module. So in between, I'll be having some instance, some creation, some logical implementations which will be present. So this is how a module instantiation takes place. So I have defined a module, 4-bit ripple counter. So this is nothing but the top level block. So how is this implemented? This ripple carry counter is implemented using 4 T flip-flops. It is implemented using 4 T flip-flops. So how do I implement these T flip-flops? So these will be acting as the sub blocks. So how will I implement these sub blocks? I define it as a module. So this is the sub block. So from top level block, we have the sub block. Since we are creating 4, I'll be having 4 such instances. I'll be having 4 such instances. And this 4 D flip-flops are implemented how? They are implemented using the D flip-flop and the not. D flip-flop and the not. So you will be having the module definition for that also. So which will be the leaf level cell, which will be the leaf level cell, which cannot be further subdivided. So this is top-down approach. This is the top-down approach. You take the 4-bit ripple counter, you build that using the D flip-flops. D flip-flops in turn are built using the D flip-flops and the inverter. Okay. So let us wind up here. This is all for today's session. In the next session, we'll continue with the discussion of the flip-flops, the 4-bit ripple carry counter, how it is implemented, and few of the concepts related to modules.